G'day everyone, welcome back to the Toon podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's biggest and best podcast for all things Newcastle United. Southampton 1, Newcastle 3, back to winning ways. I'm joined to discuss it with Jack and Lee up in Vegas. Happy Australia Day to you both. How are you?
I'm Australian, yeah, I'm officially Australian
Yes.
as of, I don't know, it's well over a year now. So yes, it was a very good Australia Day. Thank you very much. Barbecues, walking around, just trying to stay out of the heat. That's how we roll up here.
Yeah. Lee, how about you, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Happy Australia Day to yourself. I've just been on the piss all day, basically, at a mate's house. But it's been all that shandy stuff because I'm driving, so I'm fine. But I'm just making up with another beer right here. I'm trying to catch up with where I should be by now. But yeah, no, all good. How are you doing, Keegsy?
I'm good, mate. And yeah, you won't find anything more Australian than barbecues and beer. So combined, absolutely. And I watch sport all day, so you've pretty much combined the three. We've combined the three Australian sort of favourite pastimes all together in one. So,
any cockroach racing on the TV today? That's just at the Storybridge Hotel.
Yeah.
I went to the cockroach racing a few years ago. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. I remember once we were at a wedding in Port Douglas and they had cane toad racing at one of the pubs in Port Douglas as well, which was elite. So yeah, a 3-1 win. We just spoke off there. Pretty it's weird to say. It's like a bit of a routine win. At 2:00 kickoff doesn't hurt as bad. A, when you win, and B, when you've got the Monday as a public holiday as well. So your Sunday night, you can stay up a little bit later and get that sleep in Monday. 1:00 for you two, obviously, in Brisbane. Now, I'm not like some psychopaths who stay awake the whole time. I like to get a couple of hours in and then set the alarm to get up. So I try to leave it as late as I can. So generally maybe 5 minutes before kickoff, the alarm goes off. By the time I get up, get Optus on, get the whole thing sort of sorted. I spend the first couple of minutes trying to work out lineups and stuff like that. So the two things that did sort of, I guess, pique my interest a little bit in the lineup was Nick Pope on the bench, Jack. Now, there was talk in Eddie's press conference on Friday morning that he was close to being available. He was available, but he didn't make the starting 11. Do you think that's just a temporary thing, or is Martin Dubravka our number one now?
It's really hard to know, isn't it? I think last season we couldn't wait for Nick Pope to get back. We were absolutely desperate for him to come back because Dubravka hadn't had a good time. This time it's completely different. He's been a part of a successful team to the point that we didn't want him to go to Saudi Arabia, and there's talk of giving him a new deal for next season even. So he's been really good. Usually I would say Nick Pope is the number one, and in fairness as well, last season he was on the bench before he came back in. He was on the bench right at the end of the season against Man United, and Dubravka went and conceded 3 goals again, and then Pope came back for the last game. I wouldn't be surprised for Pope to come back because I think he is the number one, but Dubravka probably deserves to keep the shirt the way he's been playing. Even against Bournemouth, we conceded a lot of goals, but he was quite good. He made some good saves in that game. So if I had to bet my house on it, I would say Pope will be back next week, but I'm not as confident about that as I would have been this time last season. We'll just have to see what happens with that one.
It's very interesting too. Like Eddie does have a way to reward the blokes who have performed, even if there may be potentially a better player, at least on paper, that's coming back from injury and stuff like that. But the thing that interested me, Lee, was it was the opposite for the two centre-backs. Now, you think that Botman and Byrne, who played really well, Byrne's been arguably probably their most consistent player this season as well. He come back and Char come back, so that meant that Botman was the one that dropped to the bench. What do you think our best two centre-back pairing is sort of going forward if these three blokes are fit?
Oh, God. I don't know. It's... obviously Byrne and Shaw are getting on a bit, aren't they? And Botman is the future. So there's no doubt about it that Botman will be in that central defence area for quite some time in the future. Shaw, he's getting a few mistakes in him, isn't he? He had a few.
He is, yeah. That's why it's an interesting question now.
Dan Byrne doesn't have any pace, and he was kind of skinned quite a lot in the game against Bournemouth, although almost everyone else was as well. I would normally look at this and go, Burns Shaw is probably the one I would be starting with for most games, but and I think it's right that Botman gets a bit of a rest because he's been playing too much anyway since he returned. But the more Shaw does things like that square ball that was completely undercooked and had them in on goal, or goes for the header and then just leaves it because he's heard a call from someone, probably the Saints player. The more likely it is
that was.
the more likely it is that Eddie Howe will just get Botman back in. I think it's similar in some ways in my mind to Pope, actually. I think Eddie knows he wants these guys in the team, and I imagine he's kind of sitting there itching a little bit to have a reason to put them in, but he's also trying to reward the guys who are doing a good job in the current setup, and he doesn't want to take them out without them having some kind of massive fuck up or something. They doesn't want to take them out of the team because that obviously destroys their confidence and it gives the wrong message to everybody else. But I do feel like those two, Botman and Pope, are probably the ones that he wants to start. And I agree with Jack. I think Pope will probably be in there sooner rather than later. And Botman, it might be burning Botman at next game as well, given the mistakes from Shaw. You never know. But I think answering the question is it's pretty difficult because Burn and Shaw are pretty old. Botman is the future. But you can't see Botman and Kelly together in that central area. So I don't know. I can't even answer that question, honestly. Don't know.
It's bloody tough because there's pros and cons for each kind of pairing. So you got to sometimes maybe it's a horses for courses, and depending on who we're playing might depend on who we're picked. I was just thinking too, Jack, when you were talking about the Bravka, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts until the transfer window closes and then we go back to Pope. So he doesn't. He's kind of all right. That's it. You can't leave now. You can't throw your toys out of the cot. You're here till the end of the season. So suck it up. The game didn't get off to the greatest of starts, so did it? I don't think most of us anticipated they were going to score at all. Never mind to score the first goal. It's kind of like Bromley flashbacks from a couple of weeks ago, but. Bednarek was a great header. Byrne got pulled right out to defend that ball, and he was unmarked inside the 6-yard box. Livramento couldn't get to him. Shaw was in front of him, and I think I spoke about this when Isak's goal against Arsenal. There's nothing better than a header that hits the back of the net for me. Just It's so aesthetically pleasing, unless it's against your own team. But what were you both feeling once that first goal went in? Was it a bit of a wake-up call, do you think?
I think we'd started pretty well, so it was a bit of against the run of play. Southampton are not a good team, let's be honest. Like you look at their starting 11, and it's like, they were quite fortunate to even get promoted from the Championship, and then they've obviously changed the manager. But there's none of the players you look at and think that they're good. Like they had that big massive guy up front as well, who is really big, but he can't really play football very well. So that was a pretty good battle with Byrne as well, but. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock to go behind. I never really felt like it was terminal, though. I felt like we were going to get back into it. But, yeah, it was just a sort of cross. It was a good cross in, and he was just there completely unmarked. So it was a bit of ball watching, and we're getting a bit sloppy. Like, there's been a few goals we've conceded lately that's been a little bit sloppy that we weren't doing maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we'll probably just have to keep an eye on that. But Dubravka didn't have any chance with that. It was a good firm header planted in, like you said. So yeah, it was but I think it did give us a shot in the arm as well to say, right, you need to sort yourself out, and we did that pretty quick, which was good. So maybe it wasn't a bad thing, and it was a bit like Spurs. They scored early on as well, and then we came back into that one pretty quick. So I felt a similar thing would happen, and luckily it did in the end.
Well, that's it, Lee. Like when you're playing against a team with 6 points and a minus 37 goal difference, you can kind of feel a little bit confident you'll get 1 or 2 back, eh?
Oh, absolutely. And you could see the guys were like, oh, whatever. Yeah, it was early enough. It was definitely against the run and play, that's for sure. Byrne, had he have been in his right position, would have defended that all day long anyway. I think it was Hall who was up against it, and he's like 4 foot
He was
6.
originally, yeah. And he kind of, Byrne went over to help and tangle the legs, and yeah, it's just a.
But yeah, I mean, this Southampton team, I actually was a little bit, just not concerned, but I was a little bit aware that they'd done all right in the last couple of games. They didn't win them, but they played all right. Pushed Man United quite late. I mean, they're not brilliant either, but it did show that they still had something about them, still had a little bit of fight. And I did kind of wonder, on the back of that pounding from Bournemouth, what kind of mindset we might be in, and it could have been. I could envisage a situation where Southampton, with nothing to lose, might have given us more of a problem. And that goal came against the goal run of play. It was a very straightforward one. Funny enough, the commentator was like, "Just kick the ball in," and he instantly does that and gets a goal on the back of it. And it's like, "Oh, cheers, commentator."
We'll get to him in a minute.
But, yeah, I know he dropped a clanger and he wouldn't admit it. But I think we started all right, and then after that goal, we started to really go up a gear or two, and you could see that we had too much quality for them. At the end of the day, we were just it was almost at will at times. So yeah, no, it was probably a timely kick up the arse to say, look, this game isn't just going to be given to you on a platter. You're going to have to earn this one.
Yeah, it was, and it's still strange to watch this team and this club just be able to slosh through teams as easy as we do sometimes. Like, it's still, we're so sort of trained, and it's just ingrained in our brains that happens to us, that the teams just chop through us, or we've just got 11 blokes behind the ball defending for our lives and stuff like that. So for us to do it, it's still bizarre watching it when we kind of do it. But we'll get to our first goal. It seemed like the most Stonewall penalty missed this season, and it shouldn't have caused any debate, any angst, or anything like that. It was, I understand the referee's position. It might have been really hard for him to see, because the challenge kind of looked like it was in front of Isaac and the referee would have been behind him. So I understand that the reason why he wouldn't have gave it in the first place. But then, I mean, as soon as you go to the monitor and you see the vision from front on, it's a no-brainer. And so Efe Nkoku, I'm not sure if you remember him, Jackie. I don't.
Wimbledon, yeah.
Wikipedia. So he looks like he's a Wimbledon kind of stalwart. He could not believe it. He was absolutely gobsmacked that it was given. So he was who we had on Optus, who I'm pretty sure we do take the Premier League fees. So I'm not sure what other feeds people get around the world and stuff like that. But yeah, if you do, try and get a hold of it. It's an absolute classic. It's like someone's just ran over his dog. He's that devastated that this penalty was given. Jack, it was obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if he ever played for Southampton. I don't think he did.
He didn't. I looked at that on Wikipedia, because that's the first
Wimbledon
thing
I remember
thought
playing
of.
for. But yeah, no, it looked like, from on first viewing, it looked like he tripped Isak, but then Efe Nkoku was obsessed with the fact he hadn't stamped on his foot, as if he had to have stamped on his foot for it to be a penalty. But when you look at it, like, he's put his foot in front of Isak, and then he's basically tripped Isak up. And then
I think he catches him on the ankle too.
Yeah, like it was a foul.
Like, it's a foul.
If it's anywhere else, and I can understand why the ref didn't see that, because it did look like the ball diverted, but I don't even know if he actually.
No, I don't think anything at all. No,
so it wasn't a corner anyway, definitely.
No.
So it was pretty obvious, really, that, you know, and as soon as they get sent to the screen, you know that it's going to be given, and I think it was a good use of VAR. Like, I saw Matt Letizia having a little cry about it on Twitter, but you know. He said that it was re-refereeing, but sometimes, you know, the referee's not on a good angle and there's bodies in the way, and you know that it was
congested in the box as well. Like, this is, for me, this is the perfect use of VAR, where a referee's missed something. Hey, it's clear and obvious. Can you better come over and check this? I think there's been a foul. It goes over. Yeah, shit, there was. Yep, all good. That's a penalty. And for him, like, not even the Southampton players really complained about it. Like, I think they knew, especially the bloke who committed the foul. I'm pretty sure he knew that he didn't get any of the ball and stuff like that. So that's probably a good sign too, Lee. If the opposition don't complain about it, then it's probably a penalty.
Yeah, normally that's what they say, isn't it? But Okoku, he had all the angles on the TV to look at. And I can only assume it's because he just didn't want to admit that he was wrong in his first comments, you know, that's not a foul, terrible decision. He even mentions it as soon as the second half starts, like he was dying to get out there again. That it definitely was a terrible decision. No, mate, it wasn't. It was a blatant trip. He was nowhere near the ball. He wasn't even going for the ball. It's a penalty all day long. And by the way, how good was that penalty?
He just sells everything with his eyes. doesn't he? It's just he's just
I think
so good.
Tonali's picking up some tips as well with his goal. I mean, he kind of once he looked in one direction, the keeper went, "All right, yeah, you're going that way then." And he just went, "Nah, psych."
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm sure you two both have seen this bloke from Sky Sports as well, commentating the goal. I'm tipping it's on Soccer Saturday with. I can't understand the defense of this from him or anyone. Like, I think his defense was like, it's live TV. Like, this hat, like, mate, I don't know why you need to bring Arsenal into this goal. Like, it's live TV. Yeah, sure. You just explain what happened between the two teams that are playing, and that's pretty much it. Like, it was a bizarre sort of take on it, Jack.
Yeah, it's happening every time. So I wrote a bit about this for the NUFC blog a few weeks ago. Just this obsession with linking Arsenal with Isak, and in a way, you know, he's a world-class player. So it's a good sign when our players are being linked with big teams. But my real point of that was we've just beaten Arsenal twice this season. So if he does leave eventually, it'll be to a Champions League challenging club. It's not going to be to Arsenal, not the current Arsenal anyway. So, you know, the fans banging on about it and things. And it was Luke Edwards who jumped on and said that, why have you, to that guy who'd done their country,
100%.
why have you done that? And then Keith Downey jumped in and said, Sky Sports are not trying to sell him.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to sell him, but it's just a bit grating every time he does anything good. It's like, ooh, Arsenal. Arsenal cannot afford Alexander Isak by an absolute mile. He's going to cost 150 million plus, and
at least
they haven't got that basically. So it's just pointless, you know. Like, let's just let him enjoy scoring goals every week for us and see where he can go with us, because we are a big club in ourselves, and we don't have to have our best players cherry picked at the minute. You know, foreign clubs haven't got the money anyway. So unless Real Madrid come, but they've just bought Mbappe. So maybe Bayern Munich, I don't know, but Arsenal, no, not at the moment. No way.
Not even a chance.
Let's just keep watching, keep scoring for us. He's just an amazing player to watch, and it was incredible.
And his second goalie was absolutely sublime. Jacob Murphy again.
Oh, what a ball.
I think, even for me, I think you were the same too, Jack. That video that the club had put up, I think at the start of January, with all the Premier League goals from 2024, if you didn't know and you watched, you'd think Jacob Murphy was world class. The amount of times he featured on that, just from passing and scoring and things like that, you're like, shit, this bloke's pretty good. And I think most Newcastle fans wouldn't have thought that watching games in total. And I can feel definitely a few AFL players as well. If you watch their highlight packages, you'd swear they're one of the best players in the game, and they're quite not. But he's at it again. His form's been absolutely unreal this season, Lee. And that finish from our big dog, our number 14, mate, unreal.
The finish, I think, was largely thanks to the first touch. That first touch was incredible. He opens up his body, skins the defender. Just with that one touch, and the ball is right there, exactly where he needs it, just to stroke it in the corner. It was a lovely touch. The ball from Murphy was absolutely fantastic, and it was in the middle of the park as well. Normally, you kind of imagine him down the side, but he was in the middle for some reason, and it just spotted him, slit open the defense. That first touch, as I say, beautiful finish. Give it the old whatever with the hands, you know. It was so one direction routine almost for Isak, the way that went in. And I think at that point you're thinking, Jesus, how many are we going to get here? Because that was two in pretty quick succession, wasn't it?
And he had one just after that. He was sort of good save from the keeper as well.
And Murph loves an upright, doesn't he? So he loves banging them against the uprights, and sooner or later, you know, the one of them will get in there, and then he'll be on a roll again. Yeah, Murphy's a funny one. He is either the best winger in the entire universe, or he's
the worst winger in the entire universe.
Yeah, he often keeps a hold of the ball just a little bit too long. I think he was doing it a bit in this game as well, where you kind of say just get it in quickly rather than taking that extra touch or pausing just a little while. But you know, while we don't have a better option down the right, I'm very happy to have Murphy chipping in with these assists and every now and again a goal. I think he's doing great, and with him being a Newcastle fan and all that, it just gives that little bit extra to the team. I think it's great what he's doing, honestly, and he doesn't get the props, but you know, give it a few more weeks, he'll probably be getting linked to Arsenal as well.
He's got 8 assists. He's got 8 assists now this season.
Already, is it?
Most of them are for Isak as well. Yeah, it was the pace on the ball which made that touch so
It
good by
wiped out
Isak as well.
everyone too.
He
Yeah,
fizzed it in, and then Isak just one touch, like I said.
yeah,
When you watch
Amazing.
quality like this, it's just like it's amazing to watch. Like
yeah,
Murphy has had his critics, and give it a couple of years, and there'll be people on Twitter saying that he should fuck off and he's a leech and stuff, which is what people have been saying about Miggy this week. But
yeah, that's
like he's one of those players that he does frustrate at times, but we're in trouble at the moment if he gets injured. He's in a Miggy style purple patch just for assisting, not scoring. He scored a few, but yeah, he's surpassed all expectations this season. And Isak must love playing with him. Like the passes he gets and the service he gets is absolutely brilliant.
The pace, and this is what I spoke about maybe over 12 months ago, is that if we could balance the right wing with the left wing, it kind of will open things up a little bit, because like if you start tipping over on Murphy's side, then Gordon's going to have more space. Like it's really, really hard to defend, and that's what's happening now. Like he's hit a bit of a purple patch. Murphy's just doing Jacob Murphy. It's crazy, but it's actually interesting. So I was sort of being a bit like you, Lee, and watching or rewatching everything this morning. After watching the game, you get up and you watch the 10-minute replay, and then you watch all the press conferences and stuff like that after the game. And I finished Eddie's press conference, and on the Optus thing, it just kind of automatically rolls onto the next video and stuff. And it was Michael Owen. It might have been Sean Wright Phillips, maybe someone else, talking post game, and they were talking about Isak and the penalty, and then they kind of rolled on to the second goal. And I know there's not many people, especially in our part of the world, that like Michael Owen, but I mean, like in the late 90s, he was probably the world's best player. Like he won the Ballon d'Or. So his opinion was actually really interesting. The way he described that goal was that how Isak kind of backed onto that defender and then made a heap of space between the two central defenders. And then as soon as that pass come in, his first touch took him behind the other one, which completely wiped him out. And he was just sort of talking about how smart and how clever of a forward he is, the way he works angles and moves defenders to open up space for himself and stuff like that. And I'm like, it only went for a couple of minutes. I just found it so interesting to hear someone with an idea of how to play the position and stuff like that actually commentate in a little bit of detail how clever he is with what he does off the ball and stuff like that. I found it really, really interesting. So if there's any Aussies here that are watching it, jump on Optus and have a quick watch of it, because it's absolutely fascinating with what he says.
The thing about Isak is he could probably play anywhere along the front as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He's got that much technique, and he's got that much vision. He's got the touch. He's got the finish.
Speed.
Anywhere, really. Stick him left, stick him right, stick him in a 10, you stick him in the middle, up front. He's and the intelligence part of it is obviously is a huge part of the game, and I suspect that's where a lot of his values, his supposed value, is coming from, because they can see there's a guy there who knows exactly what he's trying to do. He's moving people around, and he's got the goods to finish it off as well at the end of the day. It's still kind of pinching yourself territory, isn't it? That we've got this guy.
What's he doing with us?
Mad.
His all-around game has improved this season as well. So I think you were saying this on a podcast a while ago, Lee, but he has just got better. Like all around, his, like you said, his creativity he's cleverer now. He's making more intelligent runs. He's just doing everything to such a high standard, and then he's still doing the bread and butter of scoring goals like that as well, which not many people. It's interesting you're talking about Michael Owen, because that was the kind of goal he would score. Like just racing in behind and then slotting it
off
in.
the fender and then working angle. Yeah, it was great. And hear Eddie talk about it after the game too, about they're very careful not to overload him with information and stuff like that. They kind of just want him to play free. And he spoke about when they're out of possession, he's very clear with what he needs to do when the opposition have the ball and stuff like that. And he's got to really stick to the team structure. But when we've got possession and stuff like that, he's basically got the license to do whatever he likes, and just, mate, if you're feeling it, go for it.
Because, he's been dropping deep a bit more and finding passes. He did it today for Gordon. I think it was in the first half where he nearly got it through for Gordon. And he did one for Lewis Hall against Man United as well, where he was in that that left pocket, and a bit like what Harry Kane does, putting slide rule passes through. And when you've got a centre forward who can do what he does, but then do that as well, that's when you've got someone really special on your hands. So every game he plays, every goal he scores, he's adding another 10 million to his price. So Arsenal definitely can't afford him now.
So it's actually interesting that for our third goal, he was kind of up pretty high as well with that. Tonali had sort of come charging off the line, won a contested header. Sounds like we're talking footy again. He's won a contested header, and then sort of Isak and Gordon just seen the run and just laid it off beautifully. And the whole, and this is the thing with, especially with Gordon and Isak, is that they kind of draw defenders to them because of how they're playing, and they don't want to give them space so they can turn and face and things like that. And he's seen this gap, and he's just gone straight through unmarked. And like you spoke about earlier, Lee, it was the eyes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Southampton didn't help themselves. They were too high, and they basically just set themselves up to get beasted again. But this was my favourite goal of the three. I've been waiting for Tony to get a goal anyway. He's only scored one, I think, and I was looking forward to seeing his performances get that reward that I think he deserved. And was it Isak to Gordon, and Gordon did it around the corner?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Tony just steams through the middle, and all the Southampton players are like, "Oh shit, what's that huge gap doing there?" And for a midfielder, he finished it off like a proper striker as well. He obviously sells the keeper one way, and then he just I think if I saw the replay correctly, he's still looking in the corner that the keeper thinks is going to, as he sweeps it into the near corner. And I don't care how good you are, that still takes balls to do that, because you could easily you could kick the bloody ground, you could scuff the ball past the post, you could feather it instead of hitting it with power. And it was just a lovely finish. And then he goes into the away crowd, doesn't he, and gets his flowers. It was just a wonderful goal, a brilliant move, and I'm so glad to see him get that. And I want to see Lewis Hall get a goal next, please. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Jack, we were sold the dream with Sandro Tonali before he signed, when he signed, and stuff like that, and we all know what happened. The first game, he was absolutely incredible against Villa, and then I think he kind of went backwards from there, and then we know what happened with the suspension and stuff like that. And even when he come back, he wasn't great. But I remember reading an article, it might have been on The Athletic, that with Chris, a friend of the pod, Chris, had talked with Eddie Howe about Sandro Tonali and his technical abilities and stuff like that. And Eddie was absolutely gushing of how good this guy was. And then he come back, and we were all kind of like, we don't see it, mate. He doesn't look crash hot. And then Longstaff was playing before him, and I know let's not talk about this in the past, but at the time, everyone was saying that Longstaff should have been playing. It wasn't I can't believe he's dropped Tonali for Longstaff. Look, Longstaff had deserved his place in that time, and then since Tonali's come back, oh my God, he's everything that Eddie Howe said he was, and he's probably better.
He's just phenomenal. I think it took a while to find the balance in the midfield as well. So that was the main problem, because we had Longstaff, who plays that specific role really well, and Bruno was in the deeper position. And Eddie had made a comment about how Tonali is more versatile than Bruno, but then that's kind of been flipped on its head, because Tonali has found his best form in this deeper position, even though he does get forward. But he's just such a clever, such a calm footballer. This goal was so smooth. Tonali only needed to take one touch to set himself up, and then he put it in.
Yeah,
it was like Isak's one touch, and it was just the weight of the pass from Gordon. It was a ball forward from Shah to begin with as well, which is what he does bring. It was a raking ball. They knocked it back. And when you've got players playing like this, it's so magical, isn't it? It's just brilliant. And Tonali, he did struggle a bit when he first came back in, because he didn't quite have his position. I think he was still finding his fitness as well. But he did play quite a lot of games, and then he came out a bit, and then he's back in now. And really, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. He's a Champions League semi-finalist. He's a Scudetto winner. He's everything that the guy had on from Milan Melbourne that we spoke to, everything that he said he was going to be, and that me and Demi spoke to. And he's only 24. He's turned 25 in May.
Prime.
So you look at him now, and 55 million. That's a snip, really. Even if Milan did know about his problems he had, it's worth every penny now. Anyone would want him in their team, and he's part of one of the best midfields in the league. And it's nice to see him get his rewards with the the goal, because that's something he could add. He could add a few more goals, but what a player.
Yeah, he does have a fizzing shot too. Like if he wants to hit him, the couple of goals he got in the League Cup, like he absolutely smoked them. So he's a player. Lee, I don't want to go early, but where would he rank in the best midfielders that you've seen at the club?
Yeah, it is a bit early, isn't it, really? We've had some decent midfielders in the day. So I don't know,
All
but
right. Well,
I think
let's put him in categories.
His potential is huge. Put it that way. His potential to be a great at this club is there for all to see.
Who's the best you've seen?
Peter Beasley, man. I know he's kind of sometimes a little bit forward, sometimes on the wing, but Beasley was tremendous.
Yeah.
Rob Lee obviously was great. Gary Speed was amazing in the middle. We didn't have a shortage of decent players in the middle back in the day. But I feel like you look at Tonali, the game's obviously different now than it was back then as well. And you look at him, look how he's built. He's obviously a tank. There's something about his character, just there's a certain je ne sais quoi about the way he seems to really be invested in the team, even though it's early doors. And maybe it was because of the way he was supported through the ban and the way the fans kind of stuck with him and that kind of thing. And that can build something into someone's character and make them just give you that extra 5 or 10%. And he's always celebrating with the guys, and he went into the fans straight away after this one. So I feel like there's that connection already, and I feel like we get a little bit more of players when it's like that. But potential for him, I mean, God, if he keeps playing like this, it's limitless at the minute. I want to see him do it in Champions League. I want to see him do that for us in Champions League, in the really big games. Yeah, maybe in a cup final if we'll get to it. I want to see how he handles the big occasion, but so far so good. Absolutely incredible player.
What if we put him in kind of tiers, Jack? If your Beardsley and stuff is in your elite tier, would he be above the Johan Cabaye tier? Or would he be in the Johan Cabaye tier, do you think?
I was thinking about Cabaye as well when he was talking about that. Yeah, I think there's an argument he's not even the best midfielder in our team at the moment. That's how good we are at the moment.
Yeah. Because if he's above the Cabaye tier, is he in the Bruno tier then?
I think he is, but he hasn't obviously got the longevity yet that Bruno's got. But Bruno is Bruno's a special footballer, and I think that because he's been here for so long and because he plays every game, sometimes people can get not taken for granted. But I think there's been a lot of talk about how good Tonali's been lately because Tonali is the shiny new player, but Bruno is just consistently world class for us, and he was again in this game. He didn't stand out as much as Tonali, but most of the time when Newcastle play well, it's all through Bruno. And I think that's still the case. He's still probably the main man in the midfield, regardless of how good Tonali is. And you don't have to compete them against each other. You just have to enjoy them in the same team together. But if we've got Tonali for another 18 months, 2 years, then I think he's got more potential than Cabaye. Cabaye was a brilliant footballer as well, but I think Tonali, he's got that pedigree to be even better than Cabaye and to be up there with Bruno as one of the best midfielders that we've ever had. And let's just hope he can continue. He's certainly, like Lee said, he certainly seems happy, he seems invested, and he's enjoying his football now. So long may that continue. Brilliant.
Yeah. It's really interesting too. I spoke about this in the chat of how the players that we've got and how they are in their positions now. I think most people would agree that Lewis Hall is probably the best left back in the Premier League at the moment. Bruno and Tonali are two of the best midfielders. Gordon and Isak are probably two of the best front three in the Premier League going at the moment. Like there's 5 good players who are nearly the best in their position in the league, and this is why I think we're playing really well. But apart from all that, like every player that we've brought in before sort of the takeover seems to have bought into the whole club, the city, the fan, like the relationship between everyone and players together as well, coaching staff, but just the connection they have with the fans. Like I know it's easy to say when you're winning and everything like that, but everyone seems to be just enjoying everyone. And I think like when you do talk about, or not when you talk about, but when people talk about players leaving and stuff like that, that's a factor, is that connection that you have with the fans. Like, you can't take that for granted, because the next place you go, there's every chance you're not going to get it, because not everywhere's like this, Lee. In fact, there's hardly anywhere like this.
Yeah, and I think it also helped that we got European football really early, and so people can see that there's potential at this club, and it's been demonstrated early doors, and now they know that they can do it again, and that becomes the next aim. But it's by no accident that we are signing these guys. I mean, Jack talks about all the time. We have this no dickhead policy, and obviously you still have to have the talent, but the mentality of these people that we are signing has been researched for months and months before we end up actually getting them, if we even do get them. And I think that's just testament to the work that the backroom staff put in, which they don't usually get the chocolates together. But I mean, when you look at the team morale and you look at how these guys are buying into it, as you mentioned, and getting us to Europe really early and putting us in the top 4, and we're nearly in a cup final. That's just down to good hard work, the stuff that we just didn't have before the takeover.
We didn't have any of it, did we?
It's the culture as well that Eddie Howe has fostered, and things like the team photo. Everyone loves it, and apart from opposition fans, but it's the culture, and it's the characters of the people they're bringing in, like you just said. It's everything, and that's why with transfers we all want to buy a right winger and stuff, but it has to be the right person, and that person might not be available in January. And let's just, I remember we sold Shelby, and then we were crying for a replacement, and then 6 months later here comes Tonali. So we just have to be a bit patient sometimes and trust that the club scouting system, it's all working. And we've gone from the squad like it was before the takeover, and now we've got 5 or 6 of the best players in the position, currently on form anyway, in the league. And we've got England's fullbacks, and we've got Italy's captain, future captain, and we've got one of the best strikers in the world,
the Ballon d'Or winner for next year.
Yeah, like the pace of change has been so quick and so rapid. But it's just testament, and that's why talking about Jacob Murphy, Dan Burn, these are the characters that the squad needs, and that's what they help to foster this atmosphere. And it was a struggle earlier in the season. The players were a bit unsettled, I think, by what happened. They're thinking they're all for sale, and it's taken a while to get back into this groove. But now we're in it. It's good to watch, and just brilliant. The seeing players like this, I never thought I'd see players like this again for Newcastle. So to sit here now, it's magic.
It's awesome. Now, just on transfers, I just want to touch on something post game. Not sure what to make of it. We've seen this before, maybe 2 weeks ago at Old Trafford with Martin Dubravka, and that didn't seem to happen. But Luke Edwards did report a few days ago that it seems like the fee has been agreed between Newcastle and Atlanta for Miggy Almiron to transfer back there. The away end was popping all day. Even Eddie said as soon as he sort of come out for the warm-up, they were up and about. So that he did get his flowers at the end, very similar to Martin Dubravka, Lee. And he did seem a little bit sheepish, I must say. He was kind of behind everyone, but Eddie kind of frog marched him to the front so he could appreciate it and stuff like that. Do you think that's going to be the last time we'll see him in black and white?
Oh, he'll probably get another 2-year extension or something, knowing how this turns out. Eddie did that because he doesn't come out and say, look, he's definitely leaving. But I think his quote was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was essentially along the lines of, he's been a great servant. He's always given his all. I felt it was important to give him that moment in front of the fans. I think reading between the lines, that's pretty much done. And he'll be going. And, as usual, doing it like at the very last bloody second of the window rather than at the start, which seems to be how we do these things these days. He didn't really kind of soak it up or anything. He just sort of stood there a little bit, took a clap, and then the way fans are doing their thing, and then he just sort of leaves, doesn't he? So I don't know. I mean, I think it's done. Yeah, I think he's on his way.
Jack, it would have been peak Miggy to score with his right foot in his last appearance for Newcastle, wouldn't it?
He could have had a go on his left. He could have tried to put it
Yeah,
in the
I
top
know.
corner.
The one time he actually could have. He's tried to put it on his right
I was
foot.
so happy to see that because the away supporters are proper supporters, you know. And I know there's been things with tickets and problems and, you know, the ID checks and things, but you see that, like, it's just a reminder that what you see on social media is far from the reality of the fan base. And to see him getting that adulation at the end, it's so good. Like, he deserves it. You know, he's got the respect. And I've seen compilations this week of his misses and things, you know, on social media, and it's hard not to jump in and start arguing with people. But like, he's a person who's given everything. He's represented the club in the right way every time he's played, and he got us into the Champions League, and he was the best. He was a big part of the best team in 20 years. So he deserves respect. And that the goals were good yesterday. The goals were good, but that moment for him at the end, that made me so happy just seeing that support he got, because that's what Newcastle supporters should be doing. You know, giving respect to a player like that. So Miggy it's a good deal for him to go, especially if it's for 10, 11 million. You know, the time has come, definitely, and we all know his limitations, but he'll be seriously fondly remembered. He'll get code status, I think, for that run into the Champions League and the goal against PSG. So yeah, amazing moment for him at the end, and that's definitely sent me to sleep happy anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was thinking about this kind of. I didn't see it till this morning. I went to bed straight after the game, so I didn't see it all till this morning. But I think he'll be remembered as kind of like this era's Jonas Gutierrez in terms of how he'll be remembered once he leaves and retires and all that sort of stuff. I think that's kind of that's going to be not his legacy, but I think that's where it kind of fit in the annals of the history of Newcastle, which is not a bad place to be. Like, he's bloody
a Mexican wrestler mask that you had to put on when you scored them goals,
like a luchador or something. Yeah,
wouldn't it?
That'd be awesome. So, if that is the last time, it's been great. You could never ever question any of his attitude, his mindset, even when things weren't going his way. I remember that long wait for his first goal. I think he hit the post in his first game, and then he missed so many after that. The eruption of his first goal was something I'll remember for a long time as well. It was unreal. So, like you said, Jack, the role he played to get us into the Champions League, the fact that he got his flowers against PSG that night as well, it was absolutely awesome. So I know he's a big fan of the show and he watches and stuff. So Miggy, and listens sometimes on the way to training when he can't watch if the kids are playing up, or he's listening to his death metal. Like we found out, we had Roberto Rojas on giving us a bit of insight. So if that's it for Miggy, we can't thank you enough, mate. Your contribution has been absolutely fantastic. And the contribution for you two for this episode has also been fantastic. So Lee and Jack, thank you very much for jumping on. It's been an absolute joy to discuss this game with you and all the other stuff. And for everyone else watching, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I think we'll be back later on in the week with a preview. I'm not even sure who we're playing this week. I'm a one week at a time kind of guy. Fulham. We owe these blokes too. So they're in good form. Hopefully, I think did they play Man United?
Yes.
Yeah. So, hopefully they can get a result. Shouldn't be too hard against that rabble. And then they can be full of fake confidence because they've beat Man United and thinking they're still a good team, which they are absolutely not one of them. So, boys, thank you for jumping on. Enjoy the rest of your Australia Day, and we'll catch you all next time.
Just keep see it.